What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Deej. Thank y'all for joining me in the sports overview today, man. What a active, right? We're gearing up for free agency next week. The legal tampering period for the NFL starts Monday. But let's break down some big moves that have been going down recently, right? So, Geno Smith has been traded to the Raiders, right? So for a third-round pick. So former starting quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks is on his way to the Las Vegas Raider and reunites with Pete Carroll. So the Seahawks, they get a third-round pick back. But what an interesting, right, turn of events, right? So as y'all know, Geno had been wanting, and it became obvious, right? He wanted a new contract from the Seattle Seahawks. He was on the last year of a 3-year deal, paying him over $75 million. However, so obviously Seahawks, they wanted to open negotiations, so they did. They were talking to Geno and his agent over a new deal, and they were willing. Geno wanted a big raise. He not only wanted an extension, but he wanted a pretty big raise. He wanted about $40 to $45 million, which, okay, cool, yeah. Wants to be paid pretty much within that average value of starting quarterbacks, which is pretty much about $40 million to your average QB market, right? Obviously, he's not going to get the 50. I don't think he's going to get $50 million. Now, he got to be realistic there, but I think he was. He wants $40+ million. The Seahawks were only willing to give him $35 million. And when they couldn't come to terms, this is per Adam Schefter. Shout out my boy Telly Dove for also reporting the news to me first as well. He was the one to notify me of the news. And what a shocking event it was, right? I think after that, it just became, but basically, yeah, like they couldn't come to terms on a new deal. And after that, he requested a trade. He wanted out. So, and obviously in the works, Pete Carroll, right, just became the head coach of the Raiders. The Raiders, too, they have been in search of a quarterback. They are not in position, right, in the draft at 6th overall. They would have to trade significant draft capital, which they are not right now. They need to build their team. They need to use the draft capital. They need to build their roster. They can't trade any value, because if they trade up for a quarterback, what's the point of drafting a quarterback when you don't have the assets to build around him, right? So they were looking in free agency, and right now it's pretty limited, right? Sam Darnold is probably going to cost you around the same range, $40 to $45 million. Jameis Winston, after really Sam Darnold or Kirk Cousins, they're your true like starting potential options at the quarterback position. And basically, I think too, they went after Matthew Stafford. They were interested. They were trying to get Matthew Stafford. Of course, he and Brady and Stafford ran into each other at somewhere in an event or something like that. And there was reported too that Brady had a formal meeting with him in their home. I think the rumors too were kind of squashed by Ian Rappaport and some stuff like that. But the interest was high. The Raiders were among the top teams pursuing Matthew Stafford when talks with the Rams for Stafford weren't going that well, and they allowed him to talk to other teams to try to find a new deal and also seek a trade. But as y'all know, the Rams and Matthew Stafford, they came to terms on a restructured deal. I think gave him the pay raise, guaranteed some more money on the rest of his contract, because Matthew Stafford made it clear he wanted to return, wanted to play this year. Despite being 37 years old, look, Matthew Stafford is still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, straight up. So once that, that window or that, option went out the window, the Raiders went back to the drawing board and started looking for potential options. They needed to get the quarterback position. Plus, Pete Carroll was not brought in to be rebuilt. Pete Carroll is 73 years old and is a winning coach. They want to win. Brady is the majority owner of the team. They want to win. They've brought in a new regime. They are looking to be better and compete in their division. So what are they doing? So they go and get Geno Smith. They trade a 3rd-round pick, right? And Geno Smith, he's 35 years old, but I don't think too, right, he's just your bridge quarterback. I think he can be your starter for another 2 to 3 years pitches. I think Geno, despite his age, is still proven to be one of the best quarterbacks in the game. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. And I think still, obviously, look, he played very well. He played pretty well in Seattle, over 4,300 yards. He had 21 touchdowns. He did throw 15 interceptions. He also, one thing that I was talking about boy Taylor at this. I think Geno Smith is still a good, legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL. And I think if you put obviously a better surrounding cast around him, he can be even better. But obviously he does need to cut down on the interceptions, because he was 3rd with 15, and he also was 1st among turnovers in the red zone with four or five interceptions in the red zone. So there needs to be some improvement. But I think with a better roster around him and seeing what he was able to do with the roster he had in Seattle, with the offensive line issues that he dealt with, I think obviously with the Raiders, with the amount of resources financially and draft capital wise, only trading that third round pick, yes, it's a pretty big draft pick, but they got plenty more assets in the sixth overall pick to use to build around him. Wink, wink, maybe a Ashton Jeanty would be pretty well, or a Ted McMillan. So the Raiders, they've got a bunch of money to spend. And even now, they do have to give Geno an extension. This is the whole point of this. They will pay him. They will give him a new extension, so it will bring their cap number down. But they get their quarterback. They get what they've been looking for. They solidify the quarterback position, something that has been an issue for the last several years since Derek Carr left. So they get their quarterback, and then hopefully next year, in the draft next year, they can potentially work and draft their future, because you want to have a backup plan in the future once, because, Geno is only getting older. He's 35, be 36, I think, this year or next year. So you want to have a future plan. But Geno, to me, still has 2 to 3 plus years good football left. So, and I think reuniting with Pete Carroll is only going to be nothing but positive for him. Just seeing, obviously, some improvement, taking care of the football, decision-making a bit, but I think he'll do just fine. And reuniting with Pete Carroll is a plus, definitely a plus. Now with Seattle, the direction of their team, like, where does Seattle go? Right, we talked about this, right? Where does Seattle go from here? So now Sam Darnold is not expected to re-sign with the Vikings. He is not going to hit the open. He is going to be on the open market, and he's going to have a huge interest. Seattle is among the top candidates for his services. So my thing is with Seattle, why? I understand, yes, Geno is 35, but he's still playing at a high level. Look what you gave him last year. I mean, the receiving core was not bad. It was great. You had DK Metcalf and JSN, but the offensive line was not good for Seattle. And I think maybe they can upgrade from Noah Fant. That offensive line was not good in Seattle. That was one of the worst offensive lines in the game, no doubt about it. And Geno still led them to a 10-7 record, potentially made the playoffs. Now, I think Geno needs to improve on his decision-making, needs to improve on his turnovers. Yes, he could be better there, but seeing what he did, I did not expect them to move on from Geno Smith like that. I didn't expect for it to get to a point where you couldn't give him what he wanted. If he wanted $40 million, just give him the $40 million. It doesn't have to be a huge 4-year deal. Just give him a 2, maybe 3-year deal. Right? Geno has proven you put some pieces, and if you give this man an offensive line, you build around him. You think it's going to be even better with Sam Darnold and seeing how he faced pressure the last 2 games of the season? No. And Sam Darnold's numbers against pressure, it's horrible. It's not good. And the film speaks for itself. You saw when Aaron Glenn and also the Rams, they pressured Sam Darnold, it was not good. Not great at all. When the offensive line came crashing down, it didn't matter who was out there catching the football. When you don't have a good offensive line, you need an offensive line to protect you, but you also got to have decision-making and do some things better. I'd rather take Geno Smith, seeing what he did last year compared to Sam Darnold. That's just me straight up. I think Geno Smith is a legitimate good starting quarterback. But, Sam Darnold is coming off a good season. He is much younger. He's 28. But you can be better. I don't like the direction there. It doesn't make sense to pay Sam Darnold $40 million when you could have just paid a quarterback who you saw what he did for you last year. Now you're banking on Sam. You're really praying that Sam Darnold does not come in there and disappoint, because he has to be good. And then, too, you still have to build your team around Sam Darnold. Now you got to pay him $40 million to be your quarterback, and then you got to go. You don't have a top 15 pick. You got the 17th pick, and then you're about to trade DK Metcalf, one of your top receivers. So Seattle's direction, it just doesn't make sense, but okay, cool. I did report in my last video the Myles Garrett trade, 4-year deal worth $40 million. How about that, right? And then he gets a max of 2. It's a no trade clause also in the deal. So I'm just dropping more details. A no trade clause in the deal. There's also what's the name? He's gonna make $40 million plus dollars. $123.5 million fully guaranteed. It's an insane deal. What a come together after him originally requesting a trade. So how about Myles Garrett staying in Cleveland after agreeing after originally wanting out, right, because of the nagging quarterback issues for the Cleveland Browns? I think that is just it's just crazy to think about it. So Myles Garrett's gonna stay. So obviously I reported some other news in the last video. What's the name? Mike Gesicki, he's headed back to the Bengals, staying with the Bengals on a 3-year, $25 million deal. Gregory Rousseau remains in Buffalo on a 4-year, $80 million deal, so they keep him in-house. Ronnie Stanley back with the Baltimore Ravens, 3 years, $60 million. Nick Bolton just re-signed with the Chiefs. They're giving him a 3-year, $45 million deal, $30+ million fully guaranteed. So Nick Bolton, one of their top key defenders, is staying in Kansas City. And they're also trying to work on re-signing, giving Trey Smith a long-term extension. And then Aaron Jones is staying in Minnesota, the now starting running back for the Vikings, staying in Minnesota, coming off a 1,000-yard rushing season, really good in his time there. 2 years, $20 million to stay in Minnesota. And now the Vikings will focus on building around J.J. McCarthy, getting him healthy, getting him right. Those are some new moves there. The Seahawks also re-signed Jaron Reed in his second stint. Came back after a second stint. He had a former draft pick with them in 2016. Had a good year. 3 years, up to $25 million. Zach Ertz also back with the Commanders. I'm just trying to, lay down as much, re-signings as I can. But yeah, man, so that's just basically just want to give you a background analysis of how I think about the Geno move and what the Seattle's direction is. And then again, the Myles Garrett, what a shocking move what a shocking, again, just development after the trade request and him expecting to get traded, but he stays in Cleveland. They gave him an offer again that he couldn't refuse. So he's staying on a massive contract in Cleveland, and, and again, just keeping him in house, staying, keeping your best player, your franchise player. He is their franchise player. He's a top 5 defensive player in the game. So keeping him on that huge deal. Cleveland, again, you saw it. They're not afraid to break the bank on someone. Maybe, obviously, they did it with the wrong guy in Deshaun Watson, but Myles Garrett, he's the guy. He's worth it. He's worth every penny that he's getting. So, free agency, again, tampering period opens tomorrow. Mock draft coming soon. Sorry I keep saying that, but I'm trying to find the time to do it. But y'all have a blessed day, man. Y'all stay blessed. Y'all stay y'all stay easy out there. Y'all stay safe, stay warm with this kind of controversial weather going around right now. But y'all have a blessed one. Stay blessed. Peace.